Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's happening. Somehow,
Yeah,
the rioting on the internet for the last 3 years. It's been 3 years.
not quite, about 2.5, because it came out in November 2017,
Oh, sure, yeah,
uh,
sure.
and then the entire. Well, I'm just gonna say it. The words I try to stay away from on social media, but today I just gave in. It's like Dark Side is. So
Yeah, what we're
you
talking
know,
about here, which is a kind of a big deal. Not so much for the thing itself, but kind of the precedents that it's maybe set in. Well,
yep.
that's kind of one of the big things we'll talk about. But I've got the deadline article up. I'm going to basically just kind of read it to you because I've not even read it yet. I've saw the reactions online. I'm just going to read this
Yep.
live, and then we're going to dissect it a little bit. So obviously, what we're talking about here is that the Snyder cut of Justice League, which a very rampant section of the fan base have been yelling for since November 2017
Even
is
even before that, even before once they heard Joss Whedon was taking over, they
mm,
they got pre-mad. And as someone that gets pre-mad, I am very familiar with it because I got pre-mad at Batman v Superman, but turns out I was right. Um,
so it's okay then. You were right. So
it's okay. Yeah,
yeah,
it's justified. However, this was even before, and then when the movie came out, um, and I remember watching it the one time and being like, "Well, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Still not good, but that's decent." And we chalked out a lot to Whedon. Um, and I always feel bad beating up on Zack Snyder on this because he left the project due to personal circumstances and a tragedy in the family. So I never want to beat up on him for that, right?
oh, of
Like
course not. I
he.
the movie, like I mean, I would even say the movie's good. I think I was a little bit lenient when it came out because it was
Mhm.
trying to be better, but ultimately was still this Frankenstein's creation of a mess that ultimately couldn't really be saved that much. This news of I think our personal feelings on this are almost irrelevant to what we're going to talk about. I mean, neither of us like Batman v Superman.
Mhm.
Man of Steel is something that kind of uh, was
I
very
al-
flawed.
yeah, I always say it's not a bad movie, but it's not a good Superman movie.
Yeah,
Like it's
that's
it's a fine sci-fi movie and it's competently made. There's a lot of stuff as a Superman fan I look at and go, okay,
they won the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut, of course, was the fabled cut that existed before they brought in Joss Whedon to redo a bunch of the movie. This all kind of came about. Obviously, he left the project, but it was also due to the fact that Batman v Superman underperformed. The
mhm,
reception to those movies was not particularly hot, just on a broad level.
mhm,
And but there was a fan base, of course. There was this adamant fan
mhm.
base that thought Batman v Superman was the pinnacle of superhero movies and was he's this auteur who's doing this next level stuff. Now we disagree with that. We're not going to get into it, right?
No,
I think Zack Snyder's a terrible filmmaker, but that's not
nah,
really what we're here to discuss. I'll read the
no.
details here, right? So HBO Max is
Mhm.
where this is coming. There are reports coming online that HBO Max is going to in 2021 get the Snyder cut. Although apparently it's still undecided if it's going to be like a super long cut of the movie or a miniseries where they split it up into parts. Which
So I have heard miniseries and I've not hated anything more in my life. I can't imagine because I'm gonna watch this, right? That was always my take on this, which I think was somewhat adapted from your take, is that I hope it exists so we can see it, and if it's garbage, we can do what we need to say what we need to say and point out the flaws. Um, and yeah, I just want it to exist so we can stop talking about it because I'm sick of it.
that's the positive to this is that maybe we can finally stop talking about it. The downside to this is this idea that fan pressure has led to this, and
Mhm,
the idea that we can make demands of studios if we don't like what they've done.
mhm,
And it's especially weird in this case because as much as there is a rampant fan base for the Zack Snyder DC
mhm,
movies, I'm fairly certain there's a bigger portion of the audience who has the opposite opinion or is at least
mhm.
somewhat indifferent to them. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird in this case. It almost feels like because they're spending, we don't know the exact amount, but they're saying between 20 and 30 million to do this, to finish visual effects, to do some ADR with some of the cast and things like that, to touch this up, to get it all done.
Uh, they're still gonna have the mustache. It's still gonna have the mustache. The Henry Cavill CG, just dead face. Like,
That
yeah.
this is probably a stupid question because physical media is probably going to be long dead by the time
Hmm.
this would happen. But if it wasn't, I could totally see this being the like Blade Runner where it comes out in like 20 years and
Yep.
has like 5 cuts. There's the original
Hmm.
theatrical cut, there's the Snyder cut, there's the mustache cut. There's the
Yeah.
like I
Yep.
could
Yep. Yep.
I could see all these different versions existing in some big box set of like, hey, every version of Justice League,
Yeah.
and not a single one of them is any good. Maybe the mustache one's funny, but
Yeah. But yeah. So, and here's the thing too: is as weird as it's gonna sound, I'm gonna defend Snyder here a little bit. Is that they hired him to do the movie, and if he walked away from it, if he wasn't removed from it, I could understand the argument of he wants to finish his project, and it took fan pressure, and they want content for HBO Max, right? So why not let him? So I understand that. Let us see Snyder's vision of what it was supposed to be. But then at the same time, I don't like the fact that now there's this double-edged sword of these people think that they've won and that they have it's completely their frenzy and rabidness for it. Because I don't think necessarily that's the case.
I mean, I would have a problem with fan campaigning to get certain things happening.
Hmm.
I think the problem with the Snyder Cut stuff is that it was something because it wasn't like it was a cut that was finished. The fact that they're spending
No.
20 to 30 million on it to
And,
actually conclude it means that no, it wasn't sitting there ready in a vault to put as an extra on the Blu-ray. It
and
was
this is yeah, and this is what's driving me nuts is the narrative around that is since I'll say 2018 to be fair, I've heard that, oh no, there's a Snyder cut and it's ready to be released, but Warner Brothers is afraid that it's better and they're trying to cover their tracks, which no one knows if that's true. I don't even know where that rumor started, but it's the main narrative that I've heard since then. And this story completely refutes that. And then the next narrative was, oh yeah, Jason Momoa saw one, which I forget when he came out. I want to say it was last summer. Is that he's seen it and it's awesome. Um, but even then, it was supposed to be a work print version, so it would have like the visual effects not all completely done, and there'd be missing scenes. And to me, that's not a Snyder cut either. That's not what they were saying. And I hate that they keep moving the goalposts on this because now there's a subsection, and this is probably more of a personal thing. Is they're claiming that they won, but this is not what they were claiming. What it was even a week
mm-hmm.
ago. So it's like, well, pick your battles, guys. I'm happy that they're, in a way, I guess I'm happy that they're a group of fans is getting to see something that they really wanted to see. That doesn't mean that they weren't jerks along the way, you know.
Yeah, I think that's probably the bigger problem is that there's been fan campaigns for things before. Like after Firefly got cancelled,
Mm-hmm.
there was fans campaigning for a movie, but it was all at least from what I saw, it was all very positive vibes. We want
Yeah.
this thing to continue. We want more of it. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
something. As someone, both of us, I'm sure, actually, I know for a fact both of us have had this happen to us, but even mentioning our negative opinion, and it is
Mm-hmm.
negative because we don't like these movies. I am adamantly against them in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm.
But even mentioning this, and not even hashtagging it, but even just mentioning our opinion of Justice League or Batman v Superman or whatever, or even Zack Snyder as a director
Yeah.
on Twitter, like there has become a bit of a term actually about the Snyder Cut people because
Mm-hmm.
they would show up even though you weren't really inviting conversation. You were just posting an opinion on your Twitter feed
Yeah.
for people who follow you, but out of nowhere someone you never heard of
Well,
would reply to it and be like, "Hey, why'd you have to bring up Zack Snyder?" And that's happened to me a couple of times.
yeah. And,
So
and,
it's it's,
yeah.
it's that it's just this kind of like obsessive defensive.
And I admire their tenacity. I wish I cared about anything as much as they care about the Snyder Cut. I really do. Because at a certain point, you just have to cut your losses. I've wanted a good Superman movie my entire life, in my lifetime, right? I'm a huge Superman fan. And outside of the Christopher Reeve original Richard Donner movie, I haven't had that. It's been close a couple times, like with stuff on TV shows, but yet I'm not out there smack talking Warner Brothers. I'm just like, hey, Matthew Vaughn wants to make a Superman movie. I'm for it. Like,
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you. Have never smack talked Warner Brothers. I feel like I could find some evidence to the contrary on that, but
I mean, not in this way where I'm claiming, you know, like again, I'm not making. I don't want to say they're making stuff up either because I'm not trying to invite that vitriol. But like, just the way that the story keeps changing. Like, sure, maybe I've called Warner Brothers out on some stupid decisions, right? But I don't know, man. I just ultimately I disagree with Snyder's characterizations of some of my favorite comic book characters, and I really don't want to see more of that. Like, I'm just tired. I took to Twitter today and was like, great, now I have to deal with Dark Superman again. Like, I thought I was over this. I thought 2.5 years ago, that's it. I don't have to deal with it anymore. But no, here it's back into my life for at least another year.
well, for me, it's more. I mean, obviously, I don't like the characterization of the characters because I care about these characters, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more. I don't like his visual style. I think he's a shallow storyteller. And I think that's what really gets me about the Snyder Cut people is they seem to think he's not. They seem to think he's some
Yeah,
deep.
it's very misguided, but at the same time, if I could run into people that I could have a conversation with, and I haven't yet. And I don't know if that's just the people that choose to try to interact with me or what, but most of the people start off very aggressive, and it's not anyone that I want to have a conversation with. Um, and and that seems to be the type of person that this draws to. And I'll stand up for 300. Like, that's a movie I enjoy. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and see, and I know you don't. Um, but I do, and then I'm trying to think of something. And even Man of Steel, I don't think is necessarily a terrible movie. I
Ma-
just think
Ma-
it misses the point.
Man of Steel's probably his best movie. It's not a good Superman movie, but in terms of
No, it's
function, it's probably his
yeah,
best movie.
it's competently made, and I just and I said this today to another friend. I don't think Zack Snyder's that great of a storyteller. I think there's things that he likes visually, and I'll back this up with a story from film school. When I was going through film school, Watchmen came out, and one of my editing teachers was a huge fan of the graphic novel, and we had a discussion about it in class after it came out, and he's explaining to my class why he didn't like Zack Snyder's style for this movie. And it made a lot of sense and it challenged what I thought. And then I went back and thought about a lot of his stuff. And it boils down to a lot of Zack Snyder stuff is it looks like that because it looks cool. Right. And I don't necessarily think that's a good way to make movies. Um, and just the fact that you would hear stories like he had a rolled up copy of Watchmen in his back pocket during filming. So that really shouldn't excuse anything. Like it was right there. You had it with you.
No, I
Their
remember getting.
context is there.
I remember when
You
Batman v
know.
Superman came out, and there was interviews after the critical reception was,
Mhm.
the Rotten Tomato score came out and everything else. And I remember someone asking him, like, what he thought of the reception, and he said something to the effect of, all I can do is keep making, comic book movies to the aesthetic that I think they should, and and I don't remember the rest of the answer was, but I remember
Yeah.
just like hearing that first part and go, well, that's the problem. All you're caring about is
Yeah.
aesthetic. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that is like right there. I'm already annoyed. Like, I hate Tim Burton's Batman movies, well,
Mhm.
especially Returns, kind of for the same reason that it's more of a Tim Burton movie than anything
Yep.
else. But at the very least, like, Tim Burton is like Tim Burton feels like a more like refined, confident filmmaker. Even though I still really don't
Yeah.
like Tim Burton movies.
No, but Tim Burton knows exactly what I would say. Tim Burton's a storyteller, and my favorite movies of his are the ones that are very Tim Burton-y. Like I love Ed Wood. I would say Sleepy Hollow, but that's kind of very Tim Burton-y, right? Um, and Big Fish, right? And I like Beetlejuice and the rest of them too, but those ones really because of the story that he's choosing to tell. It really resonates, and I don't feel that with any of Zack Snyder's stuff. I mean, when you look over his filmography, it's a lot of remakes or adaptations from Dawn of the Dead, 300, Man of Steel. His only original movie that I can think of is Sucker Punch, and that is the most aptly named title of a movie I've ever encountered.
Oh, yeah, I hate Sucker Punch. I
Yeah.
remember because it'd already been announced for Man of Steel when
Mhm.
Sucker Punch came out, and I remember leaving the theater from Sucker Punch just with this feeling of dread, like, oh no, he's done
Yep.
Superman. What?
Yep.
This is bad.
So yeah, and so yeah, and again, I don't want to tear the man down because apparently he's being given big budgets and someone trusts him. So deep down, what do I know? I just
Yeah,
know as from a comic book fan perspective, his view doesn't line up with my view. You know.
yeah. To pivot this more into just kind of the decision here itself, there is a concern that this will make lots of fan groups think they can force their anything into existence. They
Hmm.
can force studios to do what they want, and that's a really slippery slope that I don't think we should be on that path to this extent. Although the one thing I will say is that I feel like this decision from Warner Brothers itself, and this is kind of cynical, but also a good thing in the context of this just not being something they're going to do over and over again with fans, is that I feel like HBO Max is coming, and they need their big, okay, this will sell
A
subscriptions, right?
splash.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: right now, no one can shoot anything, or at least very few people can shoot
Hmm.
anything. So what can they do with people working at home that'll be a big enough thing, a big enough deal to at least enough people to justify the work and the effort and the money that's going to be
Hmm.
spent on it? Now, will they make 20 to 30 million in subscriptions from the Snyder Cut fans? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough to make that
Yeah.
much. I'd be.
I mean, but here's the thing: you don't have to be a fan. I'm gonna have HBO Max. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna work out that I already have HBO. Am I gonna have to resubscribe? Am I gonna have to cancel? Like, what's gonna happen? But
It depends
I
who you're with. I think if you're
yeah,
with, I know everyone with AT&T just automatically goes up.
right.
When I
And
understand
I
it,
don't have AT&T, so I'm probably in that. But either
but
way, I'm gonna have it. So I'm helping pay for this already. There's a lot like the Netflix stuff. I don't watch a lot of Netflix things. I have it on there for other, you know.
this
So
the sad part is that HBO makes so much good, original good content
hmm
that
yeah.
And by the way, Matt, Doom Patrol's on HBO Max. I'm just going to throw that out there.
No,
Uh,
I know. We went into this on the comic show.
I'll just remind you, just a
I
gentle
know.
reminder. Uh,
Um,
but they've got so
but
much
yeah.
content from HBO that like the service will more than justify its existence anyway,
Mhm.
just from the HBO content. Never mind the movie library and everything
Right.
else. But this is to be a splash for the people who this will appeal to more than the more high caliber HBO series that a
Hmm.
lot of us will subscribe to HBO Max because that Sunday night programming that Joss Whedon's new show even to bring something up
Right.
that's somewhat relevant. The Nevers is coming to HBO. Lovecraft
Yeah.
Country's coming later this year. Future seasons of Westworld, even though season 3 was a bit rocky and didn't end very well.
That's what I've heard. My favorite takedown of not takedown, but my favorite thing is, what the hell is Westworld season 3 even about? That was someone that watched it all and went, I have no idea what happened. So, but no, yeah, HBO it's a brand and they know their brand very well. And again, I don't want people to accuse me of hating that this exists because cool, put it on there. But like, this is not for the people that were clamoring for it. Like again, even a week ago, I don't think you think that this is what it is. You know what I mean? This is a completely different animal. If they're talking about making a mini series out of it, and it's his original vision, then cool, I guess. Like it's its own new project. I just the thing that got me is the what they announced it with is a picture, and it was a picture that Snyder shared, and it was a black and white image of the Justice League, and Batman's in the center, and there's a Justice League logo, and then over it is a big title that's 4 times the size of everything else, and it says Zack Snyder's, and then right underneath it, which is 4 times smaller than Zack Snyder's name, it says Justice League, and I think that tells me all I need to know, really,
Mm-hmm.
about this project, you know. And again, if this is about an artist representing, it's like I'm not mad at Ridley Scott for recutting or however the story of Blade Runner is. You can get so into the weeds of it. I'm not mad that there's 9 different cuts of it. I've only seen 2 of them, and that's all I need to see about that movie. I'm not a big Blade Runner guy, and if that's the case with Justice League, I've only seen it the one time. I don't really have the desire to see it again, but I'll probably watch this out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah, but this was probably the only thing that was ever going to get me to watch it again, just to see it and
Mm-hmm.
potentially review it, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, well, I mean, might as well talk about it.
I mean, that's it. And as comic book fans, especially as a DC fan, there is stuff that again, I want to see, but I don't want this to. I don't want people to fool this because like I'm happy with the point that Warner Brothers has gotten to with their superhero movies, and I don't want to have to run this back again. Like if that's the case, then I just won't watch them, and that's what will push me to that case.
I will be shocked if this has any bearing on where things go, unless this thing does some insane amount of like
Uh,
views and business. But I don't.
Okay, then give him a TV show, right? Keep it on its own little corner, right? Doom Patrol's in its corner. The CW shows are in its corner. I guess Stargirl, which I haven't seen yet, is in its kind of own corner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so do that. Do the opposite of what Marvel's doing over there, And I also I thought this was a slight reaction to how Feige has changed how Marvel's doing stuff. With they're going to focus on the Disney Plus series, right? And that's where the main storytelling is going to be. And then they're going to have the shows that or the movies that kind of support the shows. And this almost seems, I don't know if it is, but this almost seems like a reaction to that. They're like, well, Disney Plus is going to have these series, so we're going to have our own. I don't know. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know if that's what you want to do. Like, you following Disney has not been good for you,
yeah, but Zack Snyder's stuff can't be done cheap. Like Zack Snyder can't make a
right?
TV show on a TV budget. Like his stuff, like is all extremely expensive. Even like I'm sure, yeah, he's done The Dead remake was relatively
Mhm.
cheap by comparison,
Right,
but everything he's done since though has been pretty
right.
much,
Which,
extremely
yeah,
huge budgeted.
up to that point with Dawn of the Dead, he was only a commercial or movie video director too. You know what I mean? So he wasn't.
Music video.
You, yeah, okay. So there you go.
Oh, as
But
you said movie video.
oh, I'm sorry, music video. Um, but yeah, so it's been a long day. I'm back at work. This news comes. My phone blows up. It's hard to focus on anything else the rest of the day. Um,
Yeah, I went for a nap and I woke up and the internet was on fire. That's the best I can describe this.
so yeah, it's again. I'm glad that it exists, and I don't hate that it exists. I just hate the way in which it happened. Like if they had just, if this had been a plan from the jump, I think it would have been okay. But it hasn't been. If it was like Zack Snyder needs time away to recalibrate, I think that would have been okay. But now I don't know. It'll always be Joss Whedon's Justice League to me.
It's such a weird thing, like place they've got all this in because we're getting another Wonder Woman movie, we're getting another
Mhm.
Aquaman movie, but I mean the Flash movie's all but completely crashed and
And,
burned.
and that's the other thing is I'm okay with that because I did not like I feel like you could salvage Aquaman because we didn't really get too much of him. We'd already had a Wonder Woman movie. I mean, Cyborg, right? Like, he's on Doom Patrol, right? So we have a version of him out there,
They have a different version, yeah.
right? So, but I feel like uh, this version of Flash was so antithetical with what I wanted in Flash, it annoyed me, and and I guess that's just the undercurrent of this is that it annoys me as a comic fan. And now that makes me seem like I'm pretentious or whatever, but I don't know. It's so off. I can't help it.
It's just that there's no future in this. Like, I don't see a world in which there's a second Zack Snyder Justice League or there's a continuation of any of that stuff. And the fact that some of the like two of the individual characters are still going forward, but others aren't. Obviously, Batman, we're getting a completely new Batman that's completely separate and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't connect to any of this. So it's
Okay.
almost like this Justice League movie is kind of this weird, like, because Wonder Woman and Aquaman keep going, and they're still kind of in continuity with it. But I feel like going forward, they might never reference the fact that they were ever connected to anything ever again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman 84. So it's a flashback from where she was
Mm-hmm.
in BVS and Justice League, and you can do whatever you want with that. You know, Aquaman's a little bit different because again, I don't until I start seeing that they're shooting, I'm not going to believe that it's going to happen. Just the reaction to that movie. So I don't know, man. Shazam, I really enjoyed Shazam. I had a conversation with a friend, and he wanted to know like what my order of movies are, and I think Shazam's top of my list, and because it hit what I thought the character did, and it wasn't so reliant on an aesthetic, right? Like you wouldn't accuse that movie of having any like. It seems like a Saturday morning TV show, and I think that's what Sandberg was going for. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. It, yeah. Snyder Cut exists. The people who want it can be happy. But a lot of them have been such dicks for the past 2 years that
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's hard not to be a little bit. I guess they got their way, kind of
Yeah.
feeling to it.
Well, and between this and then the I know you're super out on Star Wars, but there's
Uh,
a whole bad fan side of Star Wars too, and
I,
there was
I
elements that happened.
I believe there's a name for those people too. It's called the Fandom
Yeah,
Menace.
sure. I wasn't. It's not like Voldemort. Now I understand why they didn't say Voldemort's name through Harry Potter, right? It's like, yeah, there's power in a name, but you also I just don't want to say it. But anyways, like with how the third movie, Rise of Skywalker came apart, or it came apart. That's a Freudian slip. How it came together. It just not that it leaned in to some of those more mean spirited takes,
Oh,
but it didn't
to
deny them either.
I mean,
You
yeah.
know?
Honestly, you could feel the influence, the committee influence in that last Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
and I think that's the comparison here that kind of
Hmm.
feels natural. It's not the exact same, obviously, but
Right.
you definitely felt like there was that portion of fans after the Last Jedi, and I didn't like that movie, but for very
Hmm.
different reasons than those
Right.
people did. But there was that backlash to some of the female characters, and it was very notable that in that third movie, the character of Rose, right? Am I saying that name right?
Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
They say
just
absent.
she got relegated to this minor subplot. She has like maybe about 2 minutes of screen time in that third movie, if that.
Yeah.
And she's basically a nothing character in it. And you couldn't help but feel like that was a result of fan pressure
Yeah.
and the reaction to that second movie. And
Yep.
Joe, what's so funny about it is that Last Jedi is kind of the inverse Justice League in that,
Hmm.
at least from my perspective, where there's a lot of people who see a lot of merit in Last Jedi, and I thought the execution was a bit off, but a lot of people
Hmm.
see merit in that movie and see it as something that was trying to do something different, which it was. I respect Last Jedi way more than I do Rise of Skywalker. What's
Hmm.
funny compared it to Justice League, or just Zack Snyder's DC movies, is that Zack Snyder's DC movies, there's a fan base that equally thinks that those movies are doing this next level thing, but I can't fathom what they're thinking. I can't.
Yeah, I understand where they're coming from on Last Jedi. I mean, I've had a lot of good conversations with, like, Connor and Alden about the Last Jedi, which is, again, it's not a movie like I didn't dislike it as much as you did, but there are parts of it that on subsequent rewatches, I don't like those scenes, and that's weird
Mhm.
for Star Wars because I'll deal with Ewoks, and I'll deal with sand people, and I hate sand, but those parts are almost at that part where I don't want to watch the movie because of them.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's just the opposite point I was getting at, because it sounds like I was saying they were both the same there. The opposite point I
yeah,
was making is that with Last Jedi, it was the people who didn't want it to be this smarter thing that was doing different things. They wanted it to
right,
be more just throwback normal Star
right,
Wars, that were making the nasty comments, that were making this outrage that caused all these changes. With Justice League, it was the opposite. It was the fans who believed that it was this like great deep film that
yeah.
wanted that version of it that were making the noise. And there's
But
something really funny about comparing them in that sense to me, but
yeah, well, and that's the whole thing. At least the Star Wars fans that are hating on Last Jedi, at least they got the movie. They knew what it was. The thing that always annoyed me about the Snyder people, or they don't even know if this existed. They're just going off of hearsay, and they're saying that because they've put Snyder up on such that pedestal that, oh no, of course it was better than anything Whedon could have done. Where I'm like, bro, you don't know and I don't know. Can we just agree on that? Like, it's Schrodinger's. I made the joke this week. It's Schrodinger's cut,
Schrodinger's cat. I like
right?
that.
Like,
That's a good joke. Uh,
yeah.
well, uh, the thing, in a way, this annoys me more. Or sorry, in a way that I think the Rise of Skywalker. In a way, I think the Rise of Skywalker, the impact from the fans is even worse, because at least with this, there's still work to be done. It wasn't a finished cut. But there is an element here of, okay, there was something, there was some stuff, there was a version beforehand. It never get finished, but there was a version that they wanted to see complete. And it will now exist in
Right.
conjunction with the cut that we got originally.
Mm-hmm.
With Rise of Skywalker, the fandom menace, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
made so much noise and caused so much effect. Even if everyone claims they didn't, they did. You cannot watch that movie and not feel the committee
Mm-hmm.
literally retconning things from the previous movie.
Well, and see, you say that, and my perspective on that one is, I just feel that JJ felt the story was going elsewhere, and he, not that he felt those pressures, but he was kind of like, well, what am I going to do with Rose? I don't like that character doesn't serve a purpose in my story. You know what I mean? So like again, like what you say with the committee, I don't know if it necessarily was that. But again, that's just two different
I
perspectives.
mean, that's all I felt when I watched that movie was a
Yeah.
boardroom talking about how do we please the most people with
Yeah.
this movie.
Well, it's not. I know and I'll argue with Alden on this. Whatever. Having your cake and eating it too is not what it does. Make at least to me, Ryan Johnson made a statement and then tried to stick with it. Whereas JJ's like, well, yeah, no, it's his statement, but also this opposite of that statement, and it'll work with because if you look at it philosophically, it's like, well no, just pick something and stick with it, man. That's all I want, and maybe that's what to tie it back into Justice League. Maybe that's what Snyder wants to do. I don't know, and I'm actually more curious about it now because if they are going to go the mini, I get myself into this. Like I hate myself for this. This is where I'm like I'm not going to read all the comics tying into an event, and then I end up doing it right. Um, but yeah, I don't. Part of me is like I wonder what a 6 hour miniseries is like from this, but then part of me is like I don't want to sit with this for 6 hours. Like I don't care if it's over 6 weeks or not.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, so just yeah, so I would say that the Snyder Cut people, not all of them, I'm sure there's some people who want the Snyder Cut who are
Oh
perfectly
yeah,
decent human beings who have not caused anyone any
yeah,
bother. But there's been enough of them being shitheads online that but at least with this, it's kind of the extent of the problem. Whereas with Star Wars, like the campaigning, the vitriol, the videos on YouTube, the rampant
yeah.
sexism, and just stuff like that. And then the same kind of person rants during a YouTube video. Why did Parasite win Best Picture? Why not the Joker?
Oh God.
And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I feel like that guy slots right into this. He slots right
He
into.
does.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw that same guy's face in one of the supercuts I watched once of like, here's a
Yeah.
bunch of really dumb Star Wars fans being really hateful and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, and that's the whole thing. At least the Snyder Cut people they're like a laser where they're super focused on this one thing. Whereas I feel like the Phantom Menace, it's no matter what Disney does with it, like they'll claim they love the Mandalorian, but they'll also claim that Kathleen Kennedy has ruined Star Wars. Who do you think put together the team that put together the Mandalorian, bro? Like critical thinking here. They're more just like trying to stick things to fit. There's another which I'm not gonna bring up that there's another really vitriolic community out there around comics that are kind of the same way.
Oh
That they're
sure.
just using that as a mask for other deep seated, racial and sexist. They want to be backed up by it and they're hiding behind comics. And I feel that that's kind of the same way with the Star Wars people. I don't feel that with the Snyder people. I just feel like they're almost misguided film fans that think that Zack Snyder is a deeper, more artistic director, and I just don't see it. And we're gonna disagree with that forever, you know. But I just wish I could have a conversation with them and them not be so shitty. That's
Mhm.
all. If I could have a conversation, like if you are watching this, if you're a person that came across this and you hate my dumb face and whatnot, just my Twitter handle's right there. If you're gonna be nice, I'll talk to you. I really want to pick these brains because personally, I don't know anybody that liked it, right? That liked Batman v Superman, or even Justice League. Like I say that it's fine. I would never say I liked it. Like it's an okay movie, but I don't ever want to watch it again. I, my personal group of friends, I can't find anybody that says the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah,
So,
I know I'm destined to see that goddamn extended cut of Batman v Superman at some point,
oh
probably
man,
on a live stream or something. But
it's I've watched it.
I feel like a commentary track or something might be in order for that bad
Yeah,
boy.
yeah. Oof, if you didn't like Batman v Superman, imagine it being a quarter longer. Like that's about what it breaks down to. Just silly stuff. And again, I feel like we beat up on Snyder, but he didn't write the script for that. So, Goyer shares a bit of the blame here,
Oh sure.
for that. So, and he's gone on to do other things.
That said,
So,
though, Goyer
you know,
also had a part in Batman Begins and Dark Knight, so
yeah,
I mean that maybe shows you how important a director is
yeah,
in the
true.
grand scheme of things.
It True, true, true. So, but yeah, man, I just want to enjoy Warner Brothers movies, and we got Wonder Woman 84 coming out soon. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed.
We'll see.
You know, and and James Gunn's Suicide Squad, like that's gonna be completely different. And this also reminds me that Batman v Superman's not the worst Warner Brothers, because I just remember Suicide Squad exists.
Uh, well, that's a debate for another time.
Yeah.
Uh, So I don't know. I mean, I still stand by that the hiring of Zack Snyder to sort of spearhead DC movies is the worst decision that Warner Bros. Has made.
Yeah.
From a creative standpoint, I mean, I'm sure they've done some shitty things as a company because all big companies typically have. But
Well, yeah. I mean,
but
what,
from a creative control standpoint, it may be the worst decision that they've made, at least for me personally, ever.
yeah.
So that is what it is. And so yeah, I guess that wraps us up. I don't really have much more that I want to add except the Snyder Cut is happening.
So see, that's the thing. I'm not calling it the Snyder Cut. It's the Snyder Justice League show now, as far as I'm concerned, because this is not the mythological Snyder Cut. This is
Well,
something. This is a completely different animal.
we don't
As
know if
far
it's
as
a
I'm concerned.
miniseries yet. They said it's in, they're considering it.
Right,
It may still technically be like a 4 hour movie.
right, and if that's the case, that's fine. But it's still not this finished thing that they were so bound set and determined Warner Brothers didn't want to see the light of day. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's a different animal. This is something new. Like that's I don't want to call it the Snyder Cut, but just for you know brevity's sake, I guess you can't call it that. But to me, they're two different things. I mean, because you wouldn't call the Blade Runner director's cut the final cut, right?
uh, I mean, well, that's a weird one because there's just multiple cuts, so they all have to have different names.
Right. So
But
this might not even be that Snyder cut. He could do something completely different.
but
But and that's what drives me nuts is we don't know what this Snyder cut was. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
we have no idea how much he's changed his mind about since he originally shot stuff, and
Right.
like he may make a lot of little changes here that was never in the plan in the first place, which is whatever.
Right.
Um, but technically, the final cut for Blade Runner is the real director's cut because they just had to have a different name because well, they already had something called the
Director's
director's
Right.
cut. But that's a weird one where
No, it is. It's
uh,
completely
and that one, like the director's cut made all these big changes because the theatrical cut went against these wishes, and that was a case of maybe the justice coming in. The final cut from the director's cut was basically, oh, here's a few minor tweaks because technology's improved and I can maybe move a
right.
mistake here or there, or color time a thing differently slightly because
Mhm.
the color's always been wrong in that shot. Like
I
minor
just wish
tinkers.
as a Harrison Ford fan and as a bit of a sci-fi fan, I just wish there was a cut that made me like that movie more. That that's all. And putting Ryan Gosling in there does not fix it. Believe me. I still apologize to my wife for dragging to that on my birthday for 2049 because everyone that came with me, my mother-in-law, my friend, and my wife, all fell asleep during it. So yeah, Ryan Gosling's not the answer for once.
I don't necessarily share that opinion at 2049, so I will.
No, I know. I'm just
We'll wrap this up here, I think. So we Snyder Cut's happening, and we will, I guess, do something with it when it
we'll
actually
do
comes
something. And
out.
Connor was too much of a like. He had said that he won't watch this whatsoever because he doesn't care that much. However, I dangled, well, what if someone on Patreon pays you? And he said that if it's a good enough payment, maybe. So there might be a way to get Connor here, but
I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
part of me wonders if it's just a better off like live watch stream or something instead of a traditional
it could.
review. I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
know.
know.
But either way, it's coming, and
Hmm.
some people are going to be gloating, and
You know what though? To be fair, I haven't seen too much of that today.
okay.
So if they're gonna play ball, cool. I'm tired of vitriol amongst my fan. Like I just want to like things that I got into this from. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's tough.
There's been no gloating because they've all just keeled over. They didn't know how to
Yeah,
react to this actually somehow
yeah,
working in the end, so they've all just
yeah.
heart
You know,
attack.
we can agree that it at least I don't know. I really didn't like Joker. It was beyond mediocre. So at least that's not this. We're gonna get more of
Jo-
that. So,
Although it is a worrying trend that Joker's also a movie that some people and the creators thought they were making this deep movie, but it's actually really shallow and just doing retread of better movies from years gone by. So
mm,
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that has been us. We are Peter and Matt, which I never even said at the start, but go
oh
with
yeah, hi.
it. So this is Male Fuzz TV. We talk about movies and TV shows and stuff. Check out the other channels. There's a dedicated Comics from the Multiverse channel now with all of our comic book reviews. Matt's on all the new comics on there, and
Yeah.
I'm on all the things on there. There's also a dedicated live stream channel called Mail Fuzz Live, so check that out. I watch movies with people and play video games and whatever else. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Guys, on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support the content and keep things coming. But otherwise, that is us, so thank you. We'll see you next time. And remember, it's always good to have diplomatic immunity.